What's going on, guys? I am here with Salem today. They are going to be introducing you to the awesome world of Too Many Bones and all these other games they have, such as Cloudspire and even some expansion packs and prequels such as Undertow. Guys, that is so crazy how big this entire thing is here at PAX. They have so much to show and a lot to tell. So, Salem, thank you very much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Can you tell us a little bit more about, well, let's start off with the company in general. Can you tell us more about what you guys have to offer?
Yeah, so Chip Theory Games, we actually started with another title called Hoplomachus, which was a gladiatorial squad-based combat game. And when we first put it out there, it was, we had our audience that sort of started to resonate with it. We sort of had from the very start a high focus on really complicated, crunchy gameplay, right, mixed with really just gorgeous components like neoprene mats, custom weighted poker chips, heat sealed dice, even PVC for all of the card materials. Just long lasting, sturdy components.
Very quality stuff.
Oh yeah, and it lends itself to that tactile feel of a board game. That being said, it was still a relatively small project. It was actually started by the owners just in their basement. They were working part-time on it. They had their own full-time jobs, so they're working out when they can. All of the copies that got sent out were checked by each of them in the basement, and then had a little inspected by Adam, inspected by John.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Grassroots.
Oh yeah. And so, but it was a hit with its audience, and
right,
people resonated with it. And so we started adding expansions. We did a Rise of Rome expansion, Origins expansion, and it continued to grow more and more. And then we came out with a little game called Too Many Bones, and it exploded overnight.
Right.
And Too Many Bones is sort of like a dice builder RPG. It's a cooperative game, and I think both the fact of it's a fun dice game mixed with it being a cooperative game, and then of course a lot of people really love the fantasy setting, and so all of those elements mixed it together that it became a great entry point for Chip Theory Games, and it just skyrocketed.
I can't tell you how incredible the artwork, you guys. The artwork is gorgeous. I love the art style that Too Many Bones has, and you have all these other games here that just have so much amazing artwork, and included with all of the Cloudspire, and you even have a game over there. What is that game, the middle one there called?
Yes, so we're currently showcasing a prototype of our upcoming title, Burn Cycle. So Burn Cycle, we launched the Kickstarter back in late 2020, and of course we were a little nervous launching a Kickstarter in the right in the middle of a pandemic, and it was after
best time.
Oh yeah, after all the stimulus checks went through, and people are like, oh, should we be spending all this money? But I mean, people have they've come to just love what we make, and even though our campaign was people weren't really entirely sure what kind of game it was going to be, and it still had a lot of work, and we always do campaigns when we're we don't put our finished products on Kickstarter. We pitch ideas, we pitch concepts, and
a lot of R&D.
A lot, yeah, and people resonated with it even still, and it's been shaping up beautifully over the last. I think in my opinion, it's my favorite title purely from a aesthetic design, mechanic design are so engaging and intricate and very different from anything else we have. I'd most compare it to Too Many Bones purely because it's a cooperative game as well, but the systems in place are very different. And so we're sort of showcasing that, hoping it should start going out to Kickstarter backers in March, but it's available for pre-order, and then for just sales, web store sales after that, and then we'll have it for the con circuit next year as well.
Amazing. I mean, honestly, the fact that you have so many titles and everything here that are so very similar with the Too Many Bones and that one, but I feel like I got an earful of Cloudspire and was instantly pulled in because I myself am a gamer and I love MOBAs and Dota and League of Legends and big titles like that. And then all of a sudden I come up here and they're like, yeah, it's kind of like that. And I'm like, uh-oh. Uh-oh, my pockets, they're tingling. But I walk up and I listen to the pitch and I was like, oh, we got to talk about that. So let's talk a little bit about Cloudspire.
Oh, absolutely. You said it. Cloudspire is very heavily inspired by MOBA-style games like League of Legends, like Dota, and also a lot of tower defense. And I know even our main designers, they have many memories playing Warcraft 3 mods with the tower defense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're like, we got to find a way to make this into a board game. And it is an inspiration, so by no means would I say it's like an adaptation or even, but you'll find those mechanics come through. And so unlike Too Many Bones, which is like a cooperative game, Cloudspire is mostly like a PvP competitive game. That being said, it does still have a very robust solo mode in which you go against predetermined scenarios, almost becomes like a logic puzzle. Like you know what rules the AI is going to follow, so you can predict what it's going to do, but they're sending much more powerful forces at you. So it's like, how do I use what I have to overcome these objectives? And it does also have a 2-player co-op as well.
Excellent.
But otherwise, the other way to play it is that PvP aspect, and it's 2 to 4 players. So you can play a 1v1, feel very like a strategic chess match. That being said, all of the factions are asymmetrical, so you're never going to be on that exact same, like, we all have the same resources. You have different things to consider, which makes the dynamic of which factions you choose make each game feel drastically different. And then you, of course, can play all the way up to 4-player, in which it's just this chaotic, all-out war. I know a lot of players love to play 2v2 as well, and that makes it feel a little bit more like just an expanded 1v1 experience, but with more players. I personally am a big fan of the chaos that ensues in a 4-player free-for-all. It's just really fun seeing all the forces meet in the center. They all clash, and you really don't know, like, if your plan is going to play out.
Just a bunch of panic on the board at all times.
I love it. It's my kind of jam.
Awesome. Well, how many? Okay, so it has this large, player base where you can do, 4-on-4 kind of thing, or not 4-on-4, but 1v4 kind of thing, and everybody versus each other. How long does a game usually last if you have a full table of 4?
An excellent question, and when I have a definitive answer, I'll let you know. I will say it really depends. As with all games, it depends on player knowledge.
Of course, yeah. The more you know.
The fact that all of the factions are so unique, there's going to be a lot of, like, looking at for those first couple games, there's probably going to be a lot of looking at a reference sheet, not only so you know what you're going to deploy, but also so you know what your enemy is sending out at you. Like, you may not want to just sit there and, like, I'll figure out what they do when they get here, because that could absolutely undermine your strategy. So players are probably going to want to, like, actually familiarize themselves with the different factions. So those early games can take a while.
I also saw, like, a large number of heroes too. So it's like the fact that you've got a plethora of people that you can choose from, and then on top of that, you're micromanaging a lot of stuff that's going around the map as well. It could be time consuming if you don't necessarily know exactly what you're doing.
I'd say, like, once everybody is pretty confident and knows how the different factions work, it can be a bit around like an hour per player. That being said, I've played many 4-player games with all of us knowing what we're doing, all of us knowing generally what the factions and the units do, and I've very rarely had anything last over 3.5 hours. So I would say, even though it's an hour per player, 4-player or usually don't often reach that 4-player, or excuse me, 4-hour player.
Right. 1 hour per player.
So it doesn't really reach the 4-hour mark.
Right.
That being said, though, that's vastly different than the first couple games where people are learning. So,
of course.
I definitely recommend, like, if you're getting into Cloudspire, if it's possible, I usually like to recommend people start with a solo game, because it teaches them the general mechanics, teaches them how it functions. Though if you have a group getting together, it might be hard to have everybody play a solo.
Right. You would have at least one person kind of knowledgeable about how to kind of guide the other players if they need help, kind of thing.
Yes. And I've also learned from experience that players are a little bit more hesitant to learn the game when one person playing the game has spent many, many hours. So I have found it very hard to introduce the game to people when I am playing it, because they're like, well, you're just going to
wipe the floor with us.
Yeah, and so I've started now being like, all right, I'm going to introduce you to a group, and I'm only going to, like, teach everybody as they play against each other. And so then everybody who's actually playing is on the same footing.
But it's a great game to set aside, like, a night to be like, okay, let's sit down. 6 o'clock or something like that. Let's sit down and just have tonight, and let's just go and play this game, kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely one of those you can invest your time in. You can get a lot of hours out of. Many types of playthroughs. You said single player has different scenarios and stuff like that you can run through.
16 All right, so let's see, because there's 4 per faction and there's 4 factions. So yeah, 16 solo scenarios in the base game alone, and then 8 co-op scenarios, and then each faction expansion adds their own campaign as well. And it's all part of an overarching story too. We even have hardcover versions of those books if players want to dive even more into the lore. See even more.
We're lore junkies here. We
awesome.
we love lore. So
Awesome.
yeah, absolutely. So guys, if you can, if you're here at PAX, stop by this booth. It is amazing. You guys have to check it out. They have Cloudspire. They have Too Many Bones. It's one of the biggest here. You can't miss it if you walk around. It's amazing. You can see like this beautiful artwork here with the undertow and everything like that. Check them out, guys. Thank you very much for joining me today. Thank you very much for joining me today. Guys, keep being your best selves, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye, everyone. Hey, thank you so much. That was amazing.
My pleasure. That was fun.